I think it's been a while since I've been here. Nah, it's just been a week, but it's been a week too long. Sorry for the little unannounced hiatus. Last week I had to take care of some things. All is well. Don't worry. It's Monday. It's Monday evening at that. You're probably just getting off of work. You're probably picking up your kids, trying to figure out what you're going to feed them for dinner tonight, or even yourself. You're probably just starting your shift for work. All my second and third shift people, what's going on? Or you're just tuned in, or you're about to tune in to what it is I'm about to give you right now. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Daily Blitz's Monday Evening Quarterback, the podcast. I am the creator, the founder, the NFL / college football analyst, and most importantly, fan of football. Christian Simpson here. So happy to be back. So blessed to be back. Lots taking place in football since I was last on. Just to kind of sum up last week, Alabama went down at the hands of the Texas A&M Aggies. I don't think anybody saw that. Penn State went down at the hands of the Iowa Hawkeyes, who I'm about to get into very shortly because they're about to feel my wrath. NFL, there was some drama. There was a scandal with Jon Gruden and some emails, which I'm going to elaborate on more throughout the duration of the show, and just so much more. Look, I've wasted too much time. Let's dive right into it. So, can you believe it's week 7 of college football? It just seems like yesterday I was preparing for week 1. College game day was back with fans in attendance. All schools and games and stadiums. We're going to have fans in sold out stadiums compared to what it was last year. We were in the midst of the pandemic and we're still in it right now. Again, my heart goes out to those who have been impacted by this global pandemic. Hopefully it comes to an end soon. They figure something out. And now it's October 18th. We're going into week 8 of college football and week 7 of the NFL. Week 7 of college and week 6 of the NFL are all pretty much in the past now. Well, there's still week 6 concludes tonight with Monday Night Football. But again, we'll talk about that a little later. So let's talk about week 7. The Iowa Hawkeyes. Coming into Saturday, they were ranked 2nd overall in the country behind, you guessed it, the Georgia Bulldogs. Another team we're going to talk about very soon. I know I might sound like a broken record player when I say this, but you must turn the page quickly in the sport that is football. You cannot dwell on big wins, and that's exactly what I think the Iowa Hawkeyes did on Saturday. They just didn't look good. They came out the gate flat. They struggled to really get anything going. I mean, you look at Iowa throughout most of the year. What have they been doing? They've been more than enough balanced on the offensive side of the football, and defensively has really been their mantra because they've been getting takeaways left and right nonstop. Getting off the field, rushing the passer, and whatnot. Here, I'm looking at some stats right here. I always said this offense goes as Spencer Petras goes. Here's my little stat thing. Spencer Petras was 17 of 32, a buck 95. That's 195 yards, if you couldn't put that together. And 4 interceptions, no touchdown passes. Tyler Goodson, 12 rushes, 68 yards. Average 5 yards a carry, which is good, but Purdue really clamped down and stopped them. They put that game in the hands of Spencer Petras. Then you look at Purdue. Aiden O'Connell, he went 30 of 40, 375 yards, averaged 12 and a half yards per pass attempt, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And how about this Purdue defense? They really put pressure on Spencer Petras. They sacked him 4 times. And here's the thing about applying pressure. Now, I'm a former defensive end, and I remember our coaches always saying when I played, you don't always have to hit the quarterback or sack the quarterback to bring him down. You can collapse his pocket and make him get rid of the ball sooner. Make him hesitate. Make him think once or twice before throwing the football. And yeah, Purdue just had everything going for them. They outcoached Kirk Ferentz. They outplayed the Iowa Hawkeyes, and Iowa suffered their first loss of the year, which is why I always say, do not celebrate wins, and you just can't show up on the football field. No matter who the opponent is, you cannot show up. You just can't show up and think that you're better than them. You're gonna get every team's best bet and every team's best foot forward, and that's exactly what we saw here. In Iowa City or Kinnick or wherever they play. But down goes Iowa, and there's going to be some more shuffling within the top five. The team that they were behind entering on Saturday, the Georgia Bulldogs, they just continue to assert their dominance. Look, I had a feeling that the Georgia Bulldogs were going to be good coming into this season, especially after last year where they struggled. I know they made a New Year's Six Bowl where they defeated the Cincinnati Bearcats, but still, the goal is to always get better year in and year out. And I'm just going to say, I think this is the best team that Kirby Smart has had since he took the job in Athens. Their offense they're balanced enough to the point where they can push the football up the field, but they don't have to do much. Even with offensive guys down, like JT Daniels and some of their weapons like Pickens and guys like that, that's their top wide receiver, they've still been able to get the job done. And it also helps when you have one of the best running back duos in the country, James Cook, who is the brother of Minnesota Vikings running back Dalvin Cook, and Zamir White. When you look at Georgia football and the history of their running backs, this is a candidate for running back U. Herschel Walker, Noshawn Moreno, Terrell Davis, who's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, Todd Gurley. I know he's had some problems with some injuries the last couple years, but he was pretty solid. Nick Chubb, who's really emerged as one of the best running backs in the National Football League now, and now you have these two, Zamir White and James Cook. And can't forget Sony Michel either. Won a Super Bowl, I think, first year with the New England Patriots as a rookie. Now he's playing for the Los Angeles Rams. But when I look at Georgia, their offensive line is strong. In other words, they really don't have any weaknesses as a team. I think this team is going to coast along until that first Saturday in December. You guys know what I'm talking about. The SEC Conference Championship game, when more than likely they will play the Alabama Crimson Tide. But I just love what Kentucky did. What Georgia did against Kentucky on Saturday. Kentucky moved the ball on them. I'll say that much, but Georgia just knows how to punish you defensively. This defense has no weaknesses whatsoever. They have a strong defensive line. They have linebackers who are rangy and can cover from sideline to sideline. They have guys in the secondary who are able to shut everything down, and they really make teams one-dimensional. Georgia just gave up their third touchdown on the year. Not one, not two, three. Inspired by LeBron James. But yeah, this team is just absolutely dominant. This is the best team in college football right now. No matter what happens, let's say they finish the regular season undefeated, which I think is very possible for them to do. They get to the SEC championship, and let's say they do lose that game. I still think this is a playoff team. Put them on that 2 line because they're a division winner. No, they didn't win their conference championship, but their record speaks for themselves. But I think a win over in Alabama, a team who's really been a thorn in their side, would really open up the committee's eyes. Yeah, Georgia, they're just, I could talk about them all day, every day. And the team that I said that they're possibly going to play in the SEC championship in a couple of months, the Alabama Crimson Tide, They bounced back. I said at the beginning of the show, they went down at the hands of the Texas A&M Aggies in Week 6, and that was Alabama's first loss in the regular season since November of 2019, where they fell to the then eventual champion LSU team. That team was so great. Joe Burrow and all those guys who are now in the NFL. Coach Ed Orgeron, who I'm going to talk about also in a little bit. Just getting all my segues out the way. But Bryce Young went back to looking like Bryce Young. 20 of 28, 348 yards passing, 4 touchdown passes, able to run the football. And John Mechie III, he's really emerged on as that number 1 receiver. But I really like Jameson Williams and what he brings to the table. So Alabama, they got back to the basics, and I know Mississippi State, they can move the ball up and down the field, but there was no way Alabama was going to come in ticked off, chip on their shoulder, knowing they didn't play well that week before, and they win by 40, 49-9, and they're probably going to move up in these next set of rankings. Look, this is still the team to beat, regardless of who's in front of them. I mean, this is who you want to take down. They've won, 6 out of the last 11 national championships. You can just automatically pencil them to be a playoff team, win the SEC West, and you can always depend on them to play in the SEC championship game and be one of those 4 teams listed on Selection Sunday, our Selection Sunday for the college football playoff. But kind of knew they were going to bounce back. I could just really see them cruising and coasting along until that SEC title game, because I really don't see a team in the SEC West that's gonna stop them or beat them anytime soon. But then again, look, anything can happen. Anything can slip up between now and then, and when the season ends. I'm looking at this Big Ten, man. The Big Ten in a couple of weeks. There are 2 huge games coming up in the Big Ten. Michigan State. Michigan State is 7-0. Who saw that coming? Jalen Naylor, I think, is the best wide receiver in the country. They're getting great quarterback play. And like my guy said on College Football Showdown the other day, TJ Hopkins, who I'm going to be on with in a little bit right after I'm done recording this, Michigan State is way ahead of schedule. They struggled last year. New head coach, Mel Tucker, the first chapter of life after Mark D'Antonio, and as you'd expect, they struggle, but they're 7-0 right now. They're staying focused. They're staying on par and looking ahead to what's in front of them and not way down the schedule. So I got to give Coach a lot of credit for that. But that Michigan State game is going to be huge because both teams by then are probably going to be ranked in the top 10. I would be very shocked if game day didn't go to East Lansing for Paul Bunyan's trophy. That's a trophy that's given out between Michigan and Michigan State. And I know Michigan, they're gonna be ticked off in that one because Michigan State punched Michigan in the mouth last year. But these are 2 completely different teams. That, and then you have Penn State versus Ohio State in the Big Ten East. So you got 4 teams who are really standing out for one spot to get to Indianapolis. And I think next week is really going to tell us a lot more about what's to come within that conference. But I'm not going to jump the gun too much because there's still football coming up this week. This is week 8 of college football that's coming up. The 2 games I will be previewing on the site, classic rivalry, USC Trojans, Notre Dame fighting Irish. Can't wait to watch Keaton Slovis play. I've seen some highlights and some tape on him, but this will actually be my first time sitting down, watching him, and breaking him down. And Notre Dame, another close game against Virginia Tech prior to their bye. This Notre Dame team, they just appear to be confident, not as confident as we're accustomed to seeing. But you know what? You're gonna get every team's best shot, no matter who you are, and who wouldn't be amped up to play Notre Dame. And remember what I said after the Florida State game in Week 1 in September. there's going to be that one game where they're going to fall behind and they're not going to be able to catch up. And that's what happened, lo and behold, against Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago. They just could never get into a rhythm. And I got to call Brian Kelly out. Stop playing musical chairs, bro, because stick to one quarterback. Is it Drew Pine, who the team really rallied around when things got tough for Jack Cohn? Is it Buckner or is it Jack Cohn? Like, which one? And this should be an interesting game under the lights. This is their first time playing each other in 2 years. That is USC and Notre Dame. My preview for that is coming tomorrow on the site. You know, I wouldn't be me if I didn't do my shameless plugs. That's one. And then my Saturday spotlight game is the Oregon Ducks and the UCLA Bruins. Should be an interesting one. The Rose Bowl is one of my favorite venues in all the sports. So seeing that game played there, that's going to be an awesome sight. Game day is going to LA for this game, which should be fun. The atmosphere should be electric. The weather should be fun. Shout out to College Game Day, by the way. I've really enjoyed watching that show this year. I know one thing I wanted to touch on before I gave away a game ball and moved over to the NFL was Oklahoma. I don't think it's a quarterback controversy because people were hitting me up on Twitter this weekend talking about, do you feel it's a controversy in Norman? No, not at all. I'm a firm believer in going with the hand that's hot. We've seen this a lot in football. Drew Bledsoe, 2001, gets hurt. I don't know, some guy named Tom Brady, 6th round pick, 199th pick overall in the NFL draft, comes in, and the rest is history. I think that panned out, right? Even when Drew was healthy, Belichick still stuck with Brady. A couple years back, almost 9-10 years ago, the San Francisco 49ers, when Jim Harbaugh was coaching the 49ers, Alex Smith got hurt. He goes with Colin Kaepernick, sticks with Colin, even with Alex being healthy. And look at what happens. They get to the Super Bowl. No, they didn't win it, but you get the point I'm trying to make. That game last weekend between Oklahoma and Texas told me everything I needed to know about Spencer Rattler. The kid is talented, but the kid seems uncoachable. Kind of has a little bit of that arrogance. Look, confidence and arrogance can be mixed up between the two. And the team just really rallied around Caleb Williams. He took care of the ball. Oklahoma put up 50 on TCU. Oklahoma has the longest winning streak in college football right now, if I'm not mistaken, and they're going to keep rolling. They could be a threat for the playoffs. But here's my thing with Oklahoma. If their defense was on the same page as their offense, this would be the scariest team in college football. I'm talking in the category with Bama, Georgia, Ohio State. I'll just put them out there. Any of those elite teams, any of those upper echelon teams, I think this is the most complete team in college football if the defense is just as powerful as the offense. Just imagine those two together, and this is the scariest team in college football. They probably win the whole thing. I wouldn't see a team that could beat them. That's all I really have for college football today. Let's give out a game ball. I'm giving this one to Ty Davis Price, the running back for the LSU Tigers. He had a career day for LSU. 36 carries, 287 yards rushing, which is now a school record, and 3 touchdowns. And LSU's upset win over the Florida Gators. The Florida Gators have really spiraled out of control. After they lost to Alabama, I said, okay, maybe they can stay focused until the world's largest cocktail party before anything else happened, which is Florida versus Georgia, which could determine who would pretty much win the division. That's what that game always seemed to determine year in and year out. But then Florida dropped the ball to the Kentucky Wildcats, upset, and then they were upset again. They have 3 losses on the year. Remember, Florida won the SEC East. I was high on them last year, but there's been a lot of turnover. There's no Kyle Trask coming through that door. No Kyle Pitts coming through that door. Florida's not as good throwing the ball this year as they were last year. They can run the ball with the best of them, but they're close to the bottom in the nation when it comes to throwing the ball. Yeah, that was all my college football talk, and we're gonna dive right into the NFL. It's week 6 of the NFL. It started Thursday. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Philadelphia Eagles, and I just want to say something about Tom Brady and as a defense when you play Tom Brady. If you want to play man coverage across the board in your secondary when you play Tom Brady, for the life of me, please make sure that you have a pass rush to get after him, because if you don't, he's just going to sit comfortably in that pocket. He's going to nickel you, dime you, pick you apart. Remember, the man's been in the league 22 years, okay? So he's seen every blitz, every coverage, every look. Like, I don't think there's anything that you can throw on the field defensively that Tom hasn't seen. I mean, what, 2 decades and 2 years worth of NFL experience? That really says a lot. So you got to pressure him up the middle. You got to you got to discombobulate him, get him out that pocket, make him run, because he's never really been mobile. And this goes back to his prime. And he's been out of his prime, what, 9-10 years now, but still playing at the highest level. Kind of concerned about Tampa because their secondary isn't shards. Their pass defense is horrible, and with their secondary not being great, that puts pressure on the front seven because they can't get pressure on the quarterback. But Tampa was able to escape with a win in Philadelphia. Now, they're resting on a long week. They won 28-22. Brady does it again, works his magic, and Antonio Brown's kind of looking like Pittsburgh, AB, if we're being honest. But here's some of the things that caught my eye yesterday in the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals. Now, look, I'm becoming a believer in them. I think this is the most complete team in the NFC because they can score with any offense in the league. Kyler Murray looks more poised and he looks more controlled. They can run the football. They have a strong offensive line. Look at the weapons that they have. A.J. Green, who's still serviceable. Maybe past his prime now, but can still make a big catch when he need it. Rondale Moore, kind of giving them that speed over the middle or down the field. He's not your typical slot receiver because he can take your top off the zone. DeAndre Hopkins, who's arguably one of the 2 or 3 best wide receivers in the National Football League. They just got Zach Ertz, which I think is going to be a great move for the Arizona Cardinals. And their defense is healthy. Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt is still having an impact. Buda Baker, Isaiah Simmons, like, man, this team is just stacked with playmakers, and they went into Cleveland and punched the Cleveland Browns in the mouth. Really made Baker look silly. I know Cleveland was without Nick Chubb, who's arguably their best player, and they did lose Kareem Hunt in this game to a calf injury, but Arizona went in there, punched Cleveland in the mouth, and kept their foot on the gas pedal. That's what the great football teams do. Yeah, I'm sold, and everybody thought the Rams were going to run away with this, and look at what they did to the Rams a couple of weeks ago. They punched the Los Angeles Rams in the mouth, and yeah, with that being said, look, Arizona, who would have imagined going into week 7 that they would be the lone undefeated team in the National Football League right now? They are 6-0 and the last undefeated team standing. So that's one thing. The next thing, I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? The Kansas City Chiefs are still in trouble. Now, look, they did win that game yesterday against the Washington football team. No, it was an emotional day for the Washington football team because Sean Taylor's number was retired, which I thought was a little bit of a publicity stunt, but we'll get into that a little later. But yeah, when I look at Kansas City, they don't have an identity. They're not methodical. And what I mean by that is the great offensive teams, when one thing isn't working for them, they can go to something else. And I'm not seeing that with Kansas City. They struggle to run the football. Offensive line is still a little shaky at times, and I know they spent a lot of money on that offensive line. The defense is absolutely horrible. I think they're historically bad. They can't stop the run. They Outside of Chris Jones and Tyrann Mathieu, this team really can't do much of anything. They're bad in coverage. Yeah, they looked good yesterday. They scored 13 points, but I think that was more Washington's offense struggling than Kansas City's defense actually looking good. And Mahomes has thrown 15 interceptions in his last 15 games played. He has to play with more control and more poise. For a second, I thought they almost lost Travis Kelce, but I read that it's just a stinger, and he avoided a serious injury, so I'm really happy to hear that. But Kansas City did win that game by 18. I think they can win their next couple of games, but they got to get into a rhythm because every team in the AFC, well, the elite teams, kind of caught up to them. Buffalo beat them, right? Buffalo beat them last Sunday night. The Ravens beat them in week 2. They were up 11, and they couldn't put them away. And the Los Angeles Chargers beat them. So all 3 of those teams each have tiebreakers over the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're still in trouble. I need to see more consistency for them. So they're not really out of my doghouse just yet. I know they play the Tennessee Titans next Sunday afternoon, rematch of the 2019 AFC Championship game. Speaking of 2 of those AFC teams I mentioned, biggest game of the day yesterday, Los Angeles Chargers, Baltimore Ravens. Both teams are 4-1. The Chargers won a shootout against Cleveland the week before, and the Ravens had to come back against the Indianapolis Colts last Monday night, and they did it. So coming into the game, I kind of called Baltimore a fluky 4-1 because they had to come back on Kansas City. They needed Justin Tucker's boot, his big foot, to win that game in Detroit. They looked dominant in in Denver, excuse me. I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens. Sorry, getting my cities confused. And they had to come back yesterday, so I think they really came in with a chip on their shoulder. And yesterday was the best game performance that I've seen from them all year long. Offensively, they were able to run the football. Lamar still throwing the ball from the pocket. Not bad for a guy who was told to switch his position, right? I'm talking to you, Bill Polian. Yeah, they were able to run the ball. Mark Andrews got open. Hollywood Brown made a couple catches. I know Rashad Bateman made his debut yesterday, but it's the defense that really did it for me because the Chargers were hot coming into this game. I felt they could have scored with just about anybody, and they were shut down. They threw a lot of different exotic looks at Justin Herbert. They took away Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. They confused them. Sometimes they would rush 3, and they drop 8 back, or they rush 4. Keep a spy in the middle and drop everybody back. Like the Chargers offense could just not get into a rhythm. That's a statement win for the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. What a huge win for them. That was just pure dominance, and the AFC is going to be interesting. Closing out the rest of this month, going into November, going into December, because I think Buffalo is the most complete team in the AFC, with Baltimore looking right up at them. I think it's going to come down to those 2 for the AFC, like the top seeds in the playoffs. Yeah, that's a dominant win for the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar Jackson is the winningest quarterback ever before turning 25. He is 35-8 and 43 starts. Again, not bad for a guy who's considered a running back, right? And speaking of Lamar, I want to talk about this. The University of Louisville is retiring Lamar's jersey. They're retiring his number 8, where he played his college football and won a Heisman. Did you guys see the video of that? His reaction was absolutely priceless. He's such a humble kid, and he just always wants the best for everybody around him. And I'm so happy for Lamar because I know he works hard and he's really tried to silence his doubters. And even before the season, a lot of people said this would be the year where Lamar would be figured out. Not so far. He looks better now than he did that year when he won league MVP. Yeah. I know one more thing I wanted to touch base on. Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears. Now, anytime I get the chance to preview this matchup, it's always an honor for me because I love the history of the game. This is the oldest rivalry in the National Football League, and living in Illinois, anytime it's Packers week, this whole state is ready for that game. Like, this is almost like a championship game for them. Doesn't matter if it's in the regular season, which a lot of people say doesn't really mean anything. But I still remember what Lovie Smith said when he was hired as the Bears coach. I was hired here to do two things: win a Super Bowl and beat the Packers, and he did that a couple of times in his tenure. As of late, it hasn't really looked good for the Bears when they played the Packers. Green Bay got them again, and did you see Aaron Rodgers when he scored that running touchdown? He was yelling, "I own you, I own you," and he used an explicit word, the F word. I'm not gonna say that on here. And look, I'm just here to say he's right. In 27 games against the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers is 22-5 against the Bears, including a victory in the NFC Championship game. Yes, I went there. And you can say what you want, but facts are facts. Also, yesterday was the first game that the Las Vegas Raiders played after this Jon Gruden saga. Now, I said I'd give my take on this. Jon Gruden showed you who he was. My boy Chris Flores actually asked me a question last week regarding this, and he was like, what was my take on it? He's not sorry for what he said. He's sorry everything was leaked out. That's what I always say about anybody who makes comments like this, because when you make vulgar, racist, misogynistic, and sexist comments like the ones John did, that's truly who you are. And I'm a firm believer in the saying, when people show you their true colors, believe them. Just terrible. He put on that fake face during the Monday Night Football telecast, and he was an analyst. And my boy TJ Hopkins also asked, what do you do if you're the NFL? And I said, they really can't do much of anything. This is before everything got leaked out, because one, it happened 10 years ago, and two, he wasn't necessarily employed by the NFL. He was an NFL analyst at the time. As I said, he was calling the games for Monday Night Football at that time. But, the more the emails came out, you just saw like who he truly was. He made comments about former President Barack Obama, made some pretty insensitive comments about Roger Goodell, made a comment about current President Joe Biden, made some comments about kneeling, about football players using the platform to kneel during the national anthem. But we'll get into that another day. But the Raiders, this is their first game under interim head coach Rich Bisaccia. I think I said that correctly. And the Raiders went into Denver, and they took care of business, and they needed that. They could finally turn the page, get that first win for Coach, which leads me to my game ball. I'm giving it to Derek Carr. 18 of 27, 341 yards passing, 2 touchdown passes, and a 34-24 win over the Denver Broncos. The Raiders are 4-2 in their tied. Well, they're in second place behind the Los Angeles Chargers, because the Chargers beat them, and the Chargers have that head-to-head tiebreaker over the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, with that being said, that's all I have for the NFL. As far as what I'm previewing this week, as far as NFL games, I'm previewing the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Justin Fields, Tom Brady, a little Ohio State and Michigan in the NFL, the pro version of it. Intriguing game, Kansas City Chiefs, Tennessee Titans. This has intrigue written all over it. And my AFC game of the week will be the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. 2 quarterbacks, young quarterbacks at that, who have really put the league on notice. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, both of them are Heisman winners, so it's almost like a Heisman Sunday of some sorts in the NFL. So that should be a fun one. Baltimore, I think they're the best team in the NFC North. I don't trust Cleveland. I don't trust Baker Mayfield. Cincinnati is looking sharp. They're not just going to lay down. They're definitely much improved. And Pittsburgh, they're starting to slowly but surely come around. Look, they're not going to win games. They're not going to win games with Ben Roethlisberger taking games over. Run Najee Harris. This is why you drafted him. Use the passing game, quick passing game. Use your play action. Offensive line's playing better. They're going to have to do it with running the ball and playing defense. Classic Pittsburgh Steelers football. With that being said, I'm gonna get to the mailbox time. This is where I take questions from people, and this one comes from my man Mark Rangel. Now, Mark asks, "Are the Cardinals last year's Steelers?" First off, what's up, Mark? Thank you for always supporting, man. Always keeping up with everything. So his question was, are the Arizona Cardinals last year's Steelers? No, they're not. I think this team is leaps and bounds better than that Steelers team last year. I just think they have more depth on their team. You look at the Steelers, like Kyler, at this point right now, is better than Ben. They're able to run the football much better than that Steelers team was last year. Like, that Steelers team, I explained, that Steelers team last year, their offensive line, they weren't built to run block. They were built to pass block. So their equivalent of a running game was using the quick passing game or the passing game over the middle of the field. And then Ben would use his play action and take those shots down the field. I think Arizona has much better receivers. I mean, Chase Claypool, DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, AJ Green, Juju, who I know is hurt, speedy recovery to him, Juju, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore. Yeah, this Arizona offense is leaps and bounds better than that Steelers offense was last year. And the Cardinals defense, they have playmakers. They have guys who can get after you. They have guys who can really force turnovers and really make you a one-dimensional team. We weren't really seeing that from the Steelers early on. And I think this Cardinals team, they have some better wins under their belt than the Steelers did around this time last year. I know the Steelers beat maybe one playoff team in their undefeated start, and that was the Baltimore Ravens last season. The Cardinals, they beat the Tennessee Titans playoff team from last year. They punched the Los Angeles Rams in the mouth, playoff team from last year. And they just beat up the Cleveland Browns, playoff team from last year. So, no, I don't think they are. And who knows how long they'll keep this up, but they have a test in a couple of weeks. Again, I don't like looking ahead to anything. I know the Cardinals play the Texans. They should win that game because the Texans just aren't a good football team right now. Thank you for the question. Keep sending me questions, not just Mark, anybody. And with that being said, that's the show for tonight. Time flies, I guess, when you're having fun. As always, thank you for always supporting me. How can you keep up with me? Log on to the website and become a subscriber. Type in your email address and then hit subscribe. Log on to the dailyblitz.blog. As always, keep up with me on there. And if you do become a subscriber, anything that I post on the website, you will get to your email. You will get to your email inbox. So keep up with me that way. Follow us on Twitter at DailyBlitz_61. Like the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/TheDailyBlitz. Follow us on Instagram, which is at @TheDailyBlitz_61. As always, giving some shout outs to some people, my amazing parents, my beautiful mother who I love so much. I would not be doing this if it weren't for her. She brought me into this world And I'm just here to make her proud. My beautiful sister Taylor, love you so much. My son, aka my dog, Siebes, he's usually at my feet, but he's downstairs being a dog. My dad, love you. As always, thank you for all that you do. My cousin slash big brother, Sean Jameson. Tanisha, her dog, aka my dog nephew, Kobe, who was with me last week, for always supporting my usuals, Robert Butler, Candace Carter, Kimmel Fryer, Jason Tyree. Thank you guys so much. And the other guys that I work with and talk to on a regular, Mr. Cole Johnson, keep up with him. Cole Sports, he's absolutely amazing, and I learn from this man every single day. And our moderator, D, always supporting the both of us. Thank you guys, and here's how you can keep up with me on the radio. Right after this, I'll be on the Prime with David Hoffman, TJ Hopkins, Israel Rivera, Matt James. You can catch me on the Prime every Monday night as we recap the following week, the previous week of NFL action. You can catch me on the Prime every Tuesday with those same four gentlemen I just listed as we look ahead to what's upcoming on the NFL schedule, and we pick games every Wednesday night. You can catch me on the Nerd Zone with Christopher Lawrence, Ronnie Kumpf, John Danzo, Ryan Shaw. I have so much fun with those guys. That show is aired on Twitch and blogtalkradio.com. Every Friday, you can catch me on College Football Showdown with Matt James and Israel Rivera. And every Sunday, you can catch me on the Sports Cubicle, which is on WCPT 820 AM in Chicago, Illinois, which is live radio. And if you live outside the state of Illinois and you still want to tune in to support, I will more than gladly send you the link so you can listen to the show. As always, guys, I hope you enjoy this as much as I have fun recording it for you. Have a great week. Monday Night Football tonight, Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans. Buffalo's coming off that big win at Arrowhead against the Kansas City Chiefs last Sunday night. Josh Allen is picking up where he left off. And outside of Stephon Diggs, the others are stepping up. Dawson Knox is becoming more of a reliable target down the field. Emmanuel Sanders, he knows his role. He's not that number one receiver that he was in Denver now. He's getting his looks and his touches up the field. They're running the ball. The offensive line's playing better. And this defense is so much more improved. Tennessee, I don't know what's going on, but they don't have a pass rush. One thing I complained about all year last season, and their secondary isn't great, and they're going to have their hands full tonight. I like Buffalo to win this game tonight by a score of 34-24, and I think Josh Allen will be the player of the game. Enjoy that. I'm off to go do the Prime right now. Keep up with me. I will see you guys soon.